There's one who I fucking hate. I hope that there is an extended sequence in the next book where she gets hit by a truck and then hit by a train and then drowned in a pool and then picked up and put through a wood chipper. I hate that. I hope she suffers. I hope she falls. I hope she fails. I hope they chop her hands off. I hate her. I was just getting into editing this video when I realized that I did not have the intro clip that I shot. I just wanted to introduce this video really quickly before we get to the footage of me looking all nice and polished and having prepared and complete things to say. My name is Neida. This is the little slice of YouTube where I talk about literally whatever I want, and today I am running down all of the books that I have read so far in the year of 2024. Consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about literally whatever I want, including books, movies, TV shows, anything that is interesting to me in that particular moment. I also want to plug my Patreon and my YouTube membership channel, where you get videos with a much higher production quality than this little clip that I'm filming right now. Basically, I'm going to be in graduate school for a year, and I would really appreciate if you threw me a few dollars, if you had them, in exchange for all sorts of exclusive content that will be listed in the links that I put down below. Comment down below letting me know all the books that you have read so far this year. I'm really interested, and maybe I can get some recommendations from your list of books and add some things to my TBR. And without further ado, let's get into the rest of this video. I remember talking about The Raven King, but next up we are going to talk about Ashley Parker Does Not Fail by the lady whose name I can never remember. Oh, her book is right here. Ashley Herring Blake. I wrote Rebecca in my book, and that's not what her name is. It's a part of the like Delilah Green series, and it's 3 books. Delilah Green Doesn't Care, Ashley Parker Doesn't Fail, and Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. They are all like sapphic romances about women, who are going through some sort of like big transitional point in their life, and they're all interconnected in some way. In the first book, Delilah Green, who is a queer woman who like lives in New York City and is a loner, basically moves back to her home, or goes back to her hometown to do photography for her stepsister Astrid Parker's wedding, and then like hijinks ensue, and she ends up falling in love with Astrid's best friend from high school, and she's like dealing with her daddy issues because her dad died when she was young, and Astrid's mom is an evil and hates her. The second book, surprise surprise, Astrid does not end up getting married, but she is hired to renovate a bed and breakfast in the town that they live in, and as she's renovating, she meets the lead contractor on the job, who is the granddaughter of the owner of this inn. And it's a do or die situation, because if the renovation doesn't go well and they can't attract more visitors, then the inn will have to close forever. And this is like a historic inn that has existed in this town for over a century. So she, of course, starts to fall in love with the lead contractor character, and hijinks ensue, and they start dating. I struggled a lot with this book. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I think now I would actually just give it 3 stars. I was trying to read romance in February, so I wanted to pick it up because I liked Delilah Green fine enough, but I was hoping that Astrid's character would be more active than she was, and I was hoping that we would unpack more of her relationship with her mom, but what we really ended up doing was just like a lot of design talk, and Astrid is horrible at her job. Like, she's supposed to be an interior designer, and I know this book probably wasn't written for an audience like me that spends 98% of its time watching HGTV. However, that is the person that I am. Hearing her say that she was going to rip out the historic molding to put in shiplap and gray paint for a modern farmhouse aesthetic in the year of our Lord 2022. Like, it strained credulity to a point where it was difficult for me to get through a lot of the book. For her to be an interior designer saying she's going to do modern farmhouse on a historical home in the years that Grand Millennial and like crown molding and traditional design are so popular, I was like, oh, I can't do this. But then I realized that part of the thing is supposed to be that Astrid is really bad at her job because the lead contractor has a passion for interior design. It's not fake dating. It's like fake working, I guess, situation where the contractor pretends, or Astrid pretends that she's the interior designer while the contractor is actually doing the interior designs, because they've done this whole contrivance of this renovation being filmed for a show that's going to be on HGTV, and through that they can't like change up who the designer and the contractor are at the last minute, so they just decide that they're going to go forward with the charade. The ending did make me kind of mad because, like, how did they save the inn? That's my question. My question is, how did they save the inn? It was cute. I would not recommend it. I was actually really excited for the Astrid Parker follow-up because there's all this stuff in Delilah's book about how horrible Astrid's mom is. Like, she's really a mean person. And part of the reason that Delilah didn't have close relationships when she was younger is because of how mean Astrid's mom is, and like how much she alienated her after her dad died. It's almost like she was blaming Delilah, or like mad at Delilah for still being alive after her dad died, because they had like just gotten married when he died. But it's like, if you're gonna marry someone who already has a kid and you saw how like open and welcoming he was to your kid, why wouldn't you also do that to his? But that's me. That's a thing that pissed me off about that book. I was hoping to get some resolution on that in this one, and it doesn't seem like that's gonna happen. That's all I want to say about that. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Okay, so next up we have A Far Wilder Magic. I gave this book 4.25 stars. This has been the slowest read of my life. Like, it took me literally forever to get through this book, but I'm so glad that I did. I would recommend that if you can, you read it as quickly as possible. Like, if you have the capacity to read it in one night, do that, because it's such a sweet and heartwarming story. This is your fair warning not to listen to the audiobook. The audiobook is fucking horrible. Like, the voice that they did for one of the main characters is like comically bad and anachronistic. So I would say read this in the like physical form or the Kindle form if you can. But it's set in an alternate universe, United States. I'm pretty sure it's like the Bay Area or whatever. And alchemy exists. And alchemists are the people who are like running the government. And there's this one guy named Weston Winters who wants to be an alchemist. He's a part of a Banvish family. So his family kind of like struggles. His family's also like poor, and he lives in the inner city, and he's got like 5 sisters who he's responsible for taking care of because his dad passed away and his mom is getting like older. So he wants to be an alchemist because he wants to change New Albion. He wants to like have an impact on the country. He could just like get a normal job and make a wage and support his family, but no, he wants to be an alchemist. But he has failed out of every alchemy apprenticeship in the entire city that he's living in. So the last master alchemist who's nearby is, I don't remember what her name is, but it's this lady who lives in an old house in like the small town that's a few hours drive away. So he decides that he's gonna go to her and ask her for an apprenticeship. Well, when he gets there, the only person there is her daughter, Maggie, and Maggie is preparing for the yearly hunt. Important thing to note, in this society and town, there's like all this like religious lore and whatnot, and like these creatures that might be gods, like people who are, I don't remember what the word is for Catholic, but it's like the Catholic analog in this book. They worship these creatures, but they also like are very destructive and like very deadly. And the like Protestant majority in the country thinks that these creatures are like demons or like punishments sent by God. And so like every time one of them is spotted, or like every year at some interval, there is a hunt staged to catch the last living of these creatures. Think of it as like gremlins, kind of. Like if the gremlins were being worshipped by a portion of the people who they were like also viciously attacking if they got wet after midnight. And then if another portion of the people was like, no, these gremlins are evil, we have to kill them immediately. And then they killed like almost all of the gremlins, but there's like one super powerful gremlin left that everybody hunts for like once a year so that they can like finally have rid the country of the gremlin scourge. In order to kill this creature, which is called the hala, it's like a white fox. In order to kill this creature, you need a hunter, like somebody with a gun, and an alchemist. Like that's the official rules of this hunt. So when Wes shows up, because Maggie's mom is away, she says, I will let you stay here and I'll vouch for you when my mom gets back if you will be my alchemist in the hunt. Because Maggie wants the prestige of having killed the hala as a Yuadir, which is like the analog for Jewish people, girl. Meanwhile, Wes needs the money, the like prize money that comes along with killing the hala. And he also, it would basically be a ticket into any alchemy academy that he wants. So, or any alchemy apprenticeship that he wants. So they kind of form like a begrudging friendship with one another, like a fucking equilibrium with one another. And he like moves into her big old rickety house in this town, and he is helping her hunt this hala, which he also kind of maybe worships. I don't know if that was a good explanation of what the book is, but it's so good. It's so, like, if this is a great fall book, so if you want to read it in the fall or like the winter, I would recommend it then, because it'll just give you the warm fuzzies. I remember I finished it and I immediately like burst into tears. There ends up being a happy ending, and the way that the happy ending unfolds is just so like heartwarming, but also really rooted in reality. Even though this is like set in an alternate universe where alchemy exists, like it's such a good book. It's really well written. There are moments that I think are a little overwritten, and I think some of the language is like a little too flowery at times. However, like the story carries you through. And there are also like moments that are clear to me what's going on, but then like the audience doesn't get, or like the characters in the book don't get it for a long time. And I'm like, what is happening? Why don't you understand what's going on right now? But other than that, like, it's just like a really heartwarming story. I love it. I love Wes and Maggie's relationship. I love the way that the author was able to portray, like, I love it so much. I love it so. There's a dog. There's a coon hound named Trouble, and I'm the mama to an old little coon hound. I'm not sure that I would like let her loose in a wilderness to hunt anything, because A, she's horrible at sniffing like for treats that are right in front of her nose. I don't know that I would believe that she'd be able to find a fox, let alone an alchemy like jacked up fox. But reading the book, it just warmed my heart so much, because I was like, oh my god, this dog is just like my Rosie. And she's in this, and Maggie's like living with her dog in this like big old house, and she's fixing up the big old house like brick by brick all by herself, because her mom is a fucking freak, and she keeps like going off into the wild to try and see if she can figure out the secret formula for the philosopher's stone so that she can bring her dead brother back to life. And it's like, it's all this stuff. Really good book. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Like, if you read any of the books that I talk about in this video, 100% it should be a Far Wilder Magic. Next up, I read Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, which I gave 4 stars. I read Bloodmarked, which is the second book in the Legendborn cycle. Then the third book, Oathbound, is coming out in March of 2025. These are both young adult, so it's kind of like you get what you pay for in a way, but also like I don't think that teenagers are stupid. I don't think that you have to dumb things down for them. I feel I'm of many minds about this book, because if I hadn't read the second book yet, I would be gushing about it, but having read the second book and knowing where it goes, I'm kind of like... So this young black girl named Brianna decides that she's going to go to this early college program at University of North Carolina with her best friend Alice. Brianna's mom had passed away right before the events of the book, And so she's dealing with this grief while also being in this new environment. Her first day at the school, she ends up encountering someone fighting what looks to be a demon. And she's like, what the fuck is going on? What is happening? What's going on? She then like realizes that she can see demons, whereas most other normal people can't. And she kind of like gets pulled into this secret Arthurian society at University of North Carolina. Basically, I guess like the mythos behind it is that King Arthur's round table was bound by Merlin to never die. So the round table is reborn every generation in a new set of like 12 to 13 people. The people who were descendants of the original 12 migrated from Wales and England to the United States and reestablished the round table in the United States. And then there's like different chapters throughout the country and throughout the world. It's like an underground secret society. And they are working on the side of good to make sure that demons don't end up taking over the world. There's a whole complicated like power structure in terms of how people get brought in. They know that the heir to Arthur is this guy named Nick. So Nick meets Brianna, he takes a liking to her, and she thinks that the society is in some way connected to her mother's death. So he decides that he is going to bring her on as his squire so that she can like do a little investigation and figure out if the society had anything to do with her mother's death. The first book was so good, and then the second book was so mid. The first book I really enjoyed. My one criticism is I think that they could have been older. Like I don't really understand why it had to be an early college program. I don't understand why they couldn't just be like freshmen in college. As a bitch who went to college the year after losing a parent, your family's still going to be really worried about you and really worried to make sure that you're okay. And not like behaving in ways that are uncharacteristic because of the grief that you're dealing with. That didn't make the most sense to me, like why it was an early college program. But other than that, in the first book, I really liked the way that the story unfolded. I liked the portrayal of racism in this book. It felt grounded in reality, and it felt not too cartoonish, at least in the first book. And I loved like 79% of the characters. So Brianna has a best friend named Alice, who I'm pretty sure she's Asian American. And then she also meets this guy named Selwyn Kane, who is a Merlin. The Merlins in this world are like multiple people, not just one, and they're all like part demon. And like over time they can lose more and more of their humanity and become more and more demonic. And so he's always dealing with that like fear of if he's going to become more and more demonic, because that's what happened to his mom. Like his mom was Nick's dad's Merlin, and Nick's dad was like the last one in line to be called to, Nick's dad was also the heir to Arthur's soul. So Selwyn's always like kind of nervous about that. And Selwyn, so like Brianna and Nick are set up to be love interests, but Selwyn and Bree kind of have even better chemistry. Like, why do I fuck with Selwyn and Bree even? What? I know why, but I don't want to get into spoilers in this video, so I'm not gonna say that. But like Selwyn and Bree, OTP, love them, want that to be the end game in this series. There's one who I fucking hate. I hope that there is an extended sequence in the next book where she gets hit by a truck and then hit by a train and then drowned in a pool and then picked up and put through a wood chipper, and that's Tor. First of all, your name is Victoria. What the fuck are you going by Tor? Second of all, you're racist and your girlfriend is half Venezuelan. What the fuck is wrong with you? I hate that bitch. I hope she suffers. I hope she falls. I hope she fails. I hope they chop her hands off. Okay? I hate her. And that's a sign of good writing, because I rarely feel this strongly about characters. I really fucked with her in the first scene that she was in, because she was in one of the first scenes in the book. And then she opened her stupid ass, blonde ass, racist ass, evil ass mouth. And now I hate her. And I hope she dies. Hard. Then to get into Bloodmarked, so like there's this whole thing where like Brianna realizes that she can see demons because she has a magical side through her black ancestors. Like her formerly enslaved African ancestors practice this magic called root, and she's a medium, so she can like see and speak to ghosts and also like see demons. And that gets kind of more developed in the second book, and Brianna's relationship with Selwyn gets more developed in the second book. But other than that, there's like nothing, in my opinion, about that book. Like once I got to the end, I was like, well, this was a waste of my time. Because we could have started at the end of that book. The end of the second book in this series could have been the end of the first book. And that kind of pisses me off, like when things like that happen in book series. Because then it feels like the entire thing that I just read was just like table dressing as opposed to like plot progression. But yeah, I gave Legendborn 4 stars and Bloodmarked 3, which honestly I could have given it 2. This book that I finished was The It Girl by Ruth Ware. That I gave 3.25 stars. So this is a thriller novel about a like it girl. I guess think of it like Paris Hilton or Pippa Middleton, I don't know, in like England at least, an it girl who is murdered in like 10 years before the events of the novel. It's told from the perspective of her college best friend from Oxford. They had met at Oxford, and by the end of the first term, I think, or the first year, her friend was murdered. And it's 10 years after the fact, and the guy who was convicted of the murder, and he was convicted on the evidence that the best friend gave, has died in prison. And so the murder is being revisited, and as more questions are asked about it, it is questioned whether this guy actually killed her or if it was someone else entirely. You know, it's a standard thriller novel. The person who it ended up being, I want to say that I did not see coming until it started unfolding. So if you want like a nice thriller that's kind of fun to follow and that will keep you on your toes, will have you thinking, oh, it's this person, it's that person, this is a really good book to read. I think it's not there for the substance, you know, it's really like a paint by numbers mystery thriller novel. There's a whole thing where she's like, the main character is pregnant with her husband's child, and her husband is the ex-boyfriend of her best friend who was murdered 10 years ago. They like reconnected a little while later, and so she's pregnant, but she's also dealing with PTSD because she's the one who found her friend murdered in their like college dorm. There's a lot of stuff that she does in this story that I'm like, babes, you're pregnant. There's a person inside of you. Like, I understand that you want to do this stuff on your own, but at the same time, it kind of feels like her being pregnant was kind of like a weird contrivance. I don't think she needed to be. She could have just like been postpartum, because like postpartum depression exists, and also like people are still really vulnerable postpartum, like in terms of like health outcomes. So like, but it just, she just like kept putting her and the baby in like very dangerous situations, and I was like, she's like missing doctor's appointments. It was bad, but I liked it. I enjoyed the characters, and it was a fun read. The thing that I enjoyed most about The It Girl actually is that it got me out of my reading rut that I was in the beginning of the year. I read a bunch in like January and February, and then I got stuck in like March, April, and then when I read The It Girl in May, it kind of like jump started my interest in reading. So after The It Girl, I read 5 Broken Blades by May Corland. This was on the recommendation of Carrie Can Read. I watched her like TikTok about the book. And she said that it was like Six of Crows, but better. I wouldn't say that it's better, but it is like Six of Crows. It's like an adult Six of Crows. I loved Six of Crows. I read the Crow duology last year, and I was absolutely gutted to find out that the TV show based on the book series was canceled. So I'm always looking for something that's kind of like that. 5 Broken Blades is about 5 people from across this kind of like analog of colonial Korea, or like I guess ancient Korea, or like I don't know. Yes, like old Korea. So it's like 5 people across this country who are recruited to assassinate a god king because he has either done something to each of them or done something to the person who hired them or whatever. So there's Aerie, who is a master thief and the daughter of a courtesan. Her bodyguard, Royo, who is a strongman. He like breaks people's legs for money. And they each all have their own reasons. Like Aerie's reason is that she has a personal vendetta against the king. I, for a long time in the book, was like, did he essay her? Like, did he kill her family? Like, what's going on? So she has a personal issue with him. And then Royo wants to join because he needs the money to get this kind of like surrogate father to him out of prison, because the guy who's in prison was wrongfully imprisoned for murdering his daughter when his daughter was murdered because assassins were sent after Royo and Royo had just left the daughter. So he's trying to get the money to pay for this guy to be smuggled out of prison. There's Prince Yoon, who is the like disgraced and exiled former prince of the country, who is the sibling of June, who is the guy who they're all contracted to kill, and he is a master hunter, would replace his brother on the throne, and he thinks he could be a better king than him, but also he doesn't want to be in exile anymore. There's Yoon's lover, Mikhail, who is from a different country that was colonized by the country that everybody's in, and he wants to like destroy the monarchy to get revenge. And then there is Sara, who is a poison maiden. She's like a assassin who masquerades as a courtesan to kill important men in the country for her owner, because she's also an indentured servant, a slave, of one of the 4 counts of the country. So like the 4 counts, or they're like the next tier of power after the king. So she is owned by one of the counts, and he forces her to commit murder, and if she doesn't do it, then he has her sister hostage. Her sister is like young and sickly, and they were both sold to the count when they were little girls. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars, 4.5 stars. It just ate. It just kept getting better. The intrigue. I know that I'm enjoying a book when I need to get to the end and find out what the ending is. And then when I find out what the ending is, I'm happy and I'm excited for the next book in the series. Like, I felt that way about Bloodmarked. I needed to get to the end. I needed to know what the ending was, but I wasn't happy. And that's how that ended up with 2.5 stars. This one, I was like, oh, I got to the end and I was like, oh, I could never have expected the ending. I could never have expected the ending. There is an element of it that I did kind of expect, but the way that it goes, I was like, what the F? So, highly recommend. I'm not even gonna say more about it. Oh yeah, there's a 6th person who is on this, like, there's like accidentally a 6th broken blade who is on this quest with them, because Sara is accompanied by the son of the count, whose name I can't remember, who's secretly in love with her, and his dad sent him to kill Sara whenever the king is dead, because the dad had basically promised her that he would let her and her sister go if she successfully committed this murder, but he never intended to let her go. So he was like, okay, and when she's done it, you kill her. So the son is also there with them. So highly recommend. You should read it. I loved it. Next up, I finished The Bangalore Detectives Club by Harini Nagendra. This is another mystery novel. Now, I go through this thing in the summer where I really want to read mysteries. Like, as soon as the temperature warms up, I'm like, ooh, I need a whodunit and a whydunit. This is a book about a young woman whose name I cannot remember for the life of me. No, I don't know. And I could look it up, but I don't want to because I still have another video to film after this. This is a book about a young woman who gets married to a doctor and moves from her hometown. I'm pretty sure she's from Chennai. She moves from Chennai to Bangalore in the 1920s. So she is one of the few women at this time in India who is really well educated, who is able to like go through her entire education, and she loves math. So she wants to go to university, but she's scared that her husband won't let her, because that's kind of that's like part of the thing at this time, is like he has to approve it. And so she's trying to figure out how she can take the qualifying exam and go to university so she can get a degree in mathematics and become a math teacher. While this is happening, she's also like getting to know her husband, because this was an arranged marriage. They have a really sweet relationship. I don't know if this is a toxic trait, but like one thing about me, I love an arranged marriage romance. Like I really it. Her and her husband are getting to know each other. They're falling in love. I think they've been officially married for a year at the start of the book. Her husband's a doctor, so they go to a gala at the hospital that her husband works for, and somebody is murdered. Like a mysterious outsider ends up being murdered, and they have to figure out who did it, because the person who is being accused of the murder is her milkman. Like the guy, he like literally brings a cow around and then milks the cow and then gives her the milk. Her milkman, and he has to support his entire family. He's got a younger brother, a mother, and a pregnant wife to support, and a young baby. And then like there's another person who ends up being cast under suspicion for the murder. So really they're just kind of like throwing out a net and seeing what they can catch. And this one was actually, the ending of this one was actually surprising, and that's why I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I really liked I like learning about the world. I don't know that much about like colonial India. I liked the arranged marriage aspect of the story, and the fact that her husband ends up being like an actually really nice person. You know, that can go either way. And I liked that I was surprised at the end about who ended up doing the murder and like how the confession unfolded. So next up, I read Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. I made an entire video about that, so I will not bore you ranting about it too much, but I gave it 2.5 stars. I didn't really like it, and that's all I'll say about that. I would not recommend that. If you are super into Bridgerton and you're like, oh, I should read the books, and you've ever agreed with my opinions on books and media, I don't think it's worth your time. But I did just need something like a little cute and fun to get through, kind of like the It Girl, to like get me back into reading. So that was Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. And then the final book that I wanted to talk about in this video is Yours Truly. I got that from the library, and I read it off of an Instagram recommendation. I had just like seen this girl talking about how much she loved this book, and I was like, oh my god, maybe I'll love it too. And I did. I gave it, I'm pretty sure, 4 stars. This is a romance novel about a doctor whose brother is undergoing dialysis for kidney failure and desperately needs a transplant. At the same time, she is going through a divorce where her ex-husband cheated on her with her best friend of multiple years, and she's up for a new promotion at work to be like the head of whatever at this hospital. Someone new comes to work at the hospital, and her boss basically tells her that he's putting off retirement and like putting off promoting her to this role so that this guy can have a fair shot at the job as well. And she's pissed about that. Everyone on the team is pissed about that, and they end up icing him out. Come to find out, he is the sweetest golden retriever man in the history of men, and she feels really bad about icing him out. And he also is like, his brother is marrying his ex-girlfriend like very soon, and he needs a date for all the wedding events so that his family won't like pester him about how he's feeling, because he's really bad social anxiety. And so they make a pact. He honestly, like all on his own, he decides that he's going to donate, see if he's a match, and then when he is, donate his kidney to her brother. And she's not supposed to find out about it, but she does, because they work at the same fucking hospital and they're friends with people. So once she finds out, she agrees to be his fake girlfriend for his family events. It's an amazingly written book. Like, people often rag on how romance novels are written. Reading this after Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, I was like, this is why like romance can be such a versatile genre. It's amazingly written. The character development is excellent. The development of the relationship is excellent. The only person who really pissed me off in the story was the girl. I think her name is Brianna. But it's because she's got a lot of unresolved, like, trauma that she's not dealing with. And I'm like, baby, you are a medical doctor. Go to therapy. That's what you need. Really good book. Highly recommend that you check it out if you're a fan of romance. If you like a slow burn. If you like the fake dating trope. I know it's really played out. But I enjoyed how it unfolded in this book. It did get frustrating at a certain point because the thing that always annoys me about fake dating books is it's like, you guys are clearly in love. Why doesn't one of you just say that? What's standing in your way? But then, like, the obstacle standing in their way ended up actually being, like, making sense. Like, the obstacles are not, like, all these fake things that they created. It's insanity. It's the fact that we're insane people and we get scared of things, you know? So, I highly recommend that. But, yeah. That is every book that I have read thus far this year. Please let me know in the comments down below what books you've read and give me any recommendations if you have them. I love reading. Books are my favorite thing in this entire world. I'm looking at all my books right now and I'm feeling the warm fuzzies that they get to be a part of my life. And I'm also trying to figure out how I'm going to ship some of these to Scotland. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Please give this video a thumbs up if you love content about books. That will let me know actually to make more content about books if this video ends up getting more thumbs up than other videos that I put up. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Dear Lord, I'm so tired.